Anytime.
Okay.
I'm always ready.
Okay. Today is the 26th of April, 2005. I'm Jessica Clark, the Teresa Mack Germans from Russia History Fellow, and the project coordinator for the Germans from Russia Oral History Project. It is a pleasure to visit with Edwin Dewald in Fargo, North Dakota. Just for the initial statement, please state your full name, date, and location of birth.
Edwin Emil Dewald. Date of birth? February 22nd, 1933.
And location of birth.
Napoleon, North Dakota, Logan County.
Okay. Well, we'll go on to a couple introductory questions. Did you ever hear any stories of your birth?
Good. What kind of stories you mean as far
where
as?
were you born? Like how? Like was it in the home, or who was present?
Oh, no.
No.
I don't even know that, no.
Okay.
It was definitely at the home in our house, I know.
Okay.
And Dr. Stokes, I believe, from Streeter came out to see that I got out of there.
Okay. What is your earliest childhood memory?
I suppose the earliest would have been when I went to school. I did have two operations or surgeries early in life. I had appendix at about 2 years old, and then I had mastoid behind the ear, mastoid, yeah, at 2.5. So I was down and out, really. And I guess the only thing that I remember they keep telling me is that my real name is Edwin Emil Dewald, but I was down and out because my appendix was busted, and there was no doctors around, so they took me into Streeter with the horses, and then from there they went to Jamestown. So they said I could have any kind of name I wanted. Then I said, well, I'd like Emil. So it was Emil all the time until military was looking for an Edwin. And I came in the post office and they asked if I knew Edwin Dewald. I said, I'm afraid I do. And that was my greetings from the military. So from then on, I was Edwin all the time, but except when somebody calls me or something and they ask for Emil, I know where they're calling from.
Somebody from the childhood.
From home.
Okay. We have a few questions on what it was like growing up in North Dakota. The first is, what was it like for you growing up on the prairie?
Wonderful at the time. Seems to me like we had a lot more snow those years, and what I liked about it, I guess, was we took care of the cattle and had a lot of farming to do, and I enjoyed that.
What did you find especially beautiful about the plains?
I guess, well, number one, we were in the flat area. We had flat ground for many, 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 many miles. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. Everything was green, everything is cultivated. And so that was the beautiful thing about our land, I guess, out there.
And to go on the other side of that, what was the most unpleasant thing about the plains?
Work. Well, no, I guess not. But in a way, we first had to milk the cows and then go to school and then come home and milk the cows, and and every time you wanted to go away, you had to come home because the cows wouldn't wait. So we had I guess that was the thing that I disliked more than anything. If you wanted to go someplace, you still had to come home all the time. And we did.
Love those cows. What were the winter months like?
Terrible. like I said, I believe that we had a lot more snow in those years than now, because I know we had a two-story house, and I know one year for sure we crawled out the two-story window onto the snowplow. And then we had a bicycle, and I know you couldn't drive that for many months. To school we had to walk.
How far was it to school?
About 1 mile there and 1 mile back home. But we had to cross fields, fences. And then wintertime we did use a horse and a sled. And that made it about 3 miles.
How close did you live to town?
11 miles to Streeter.
11 miles to Streeter?
And those days was, we had our own meat and our own milk and all that stuff, but we milked the cows. We had to take the milk in. That was all done by horses. Not that, I was kind of young then yet, because I left the farm. Well, they said that as soon as I go to high school, they'd move to town, and they started building a house before my dad had died, but he died while we were building it, because they didn't want me running around in Streeter, North Dakota, without them being there. I was a good boy, but
Just didn't want you getting any mischief.
I don't know why they would think that. But
What were the summer months like?
very nice. We had a lot of work. We always worked. If we weren't working on the crops, we were making hay. And we had sheep, we had cattle, we had horses, we had everything. Hogs, stuff like that. And but the summer was nice because we could get around by bicycle.
What was your favorite season when you were growing up?
I suppose summer. Yeah, because it was nice. Our falls and springs were a little different than they now too, I think. And winters weren't pleasant at all.
Quite cold, I imagine.
Cold and a lot of snow. You couldn't drive with cars.
Did you or your family go on hunting trips or go hunting?
Yeah, about 10, 15 feet behind our house, we done our hunting with deer and pheasants. We went hunting pheasants quite a bit. Dad, you had to go at least 10 or 20 miles, I guess. Everything was right out there.
Okay, we're going to switch kind of gears a little bit. Did you know either of your grandparents, except the grandparents?
I knew my Dewald grandmother.
Okay.
I never seen my grandfather. I mean, he died before. My mother's side, Rao. Yeah, I seen my grandmother and grandfather and visited them many times.
Did they live close to your farm then?
They had a farm, I suppose, about 9 or 10 miles away. And I'd visit them, and at the time I played either piano or I didn't have accordion then yet.
Yes, I heard.
But I had a guitar, so I sang to them when they gave me a nickel every time. So.
And your grandmother, did you live close to your grandmother Dewald?
She lived in Streeter, so when she was still alive when we moved to Streeter. That was about 12 blocks away.
Did you ever stay with either of your grandparents? Stay over at their house? Or?
Not that I know of. No, we never did. I never did. Grandpa Rao and Grandma Rao moved into Streeter also, and I don't believe I stayed there because we were already in town.
Were either of them a really strong influence on your life?
Well, I think so, because I visited them quite a bit, and when I got confirmed it seemed like they had a strong, what did you say? Influence, because I got confirmed German, and which I didn't really know how to read very well German, you know, and so on and so on. But I got confirmed German because of them.
Of them. That was their preference to.
Oh yeah.
Can you describe their characters?
Very nice people.
Very nice people.
Yeah, very nice people. They Grandpa was built large, you know, tall, and Grandma was just a good cook, like
Good
they all
job.
were those days, you know. I enjoyed it very much.
How many children were on your Dewald side? How many children did your grandmother have on that side of the family?
About 12.
12. And then on the other side of the family?
At least 11 or 12.
So pretty large family.
Oh, large families.
Were you close to your aunts and uncles?
Some of them, yes, on the Rouse side, and which wins, whatever, and also the Dewald. Probably 3 miles from one of my uncles, and then about 5 miles from the other uncle, and there were quite a few uncles around. They didn't have any boys, so they all had girls, so I always wanted to go over there.
Were you especially close to one of your uncles? Is there somebody that influenced
Most of
you?
them. Oh yeah, the one that just died now, the aunt. I was very close, and we joked around a lot all the time. Because in Easter time, he tried to feed me raw eggs. I mean, he said they were boiled, but they weren't, so I'd crack them open. Yeah.
Yeah. What types of things did you do with your cousins?
What did we do? Played games.
What type of games?
Well, like Monopoly and stuff like that. That's about all you did. Don't think I hit my guitar then yet or not. I first had to go hunt muskrats and sell muskrat hide before I could buy a guitar. I had to pay for it myself.
Did you learn how to play the guitar? Like, were you self-taught or did you have lessons?
Self-taught.
Self-taught?
I play by ear.
Did you, do you read music then, or?
No.
No?
Well, there's another story. The guitar, I just knew how to play, I guess. But we had a pump organ, you know, the ones you pump. I learned how to play that, and that was without notes. But then when we got to high school, I did take lessons for about 3 months, and every time I played it once, I had it memorized. And then the teacher got smart one time, and she said, do you know where you're at? And I said, no, I have no idea. She says, you might as well quit.
Oh.
So I did, but I can figure out notes if I have to.
When did you learn to play the accordion?
Where?
When?
That had to be when I went to high school, so how old was that then? 17? 17? 18, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I got my first accordion then.
Well, we would love to hear you play sometime. That would be a great treat for us.
Well, come down to Centennial, that's what I'm playing.
Okay, I'll have to tell Marco.
I play in mostly all the nursing homes here and the senior citizens.
Okay. Let's see here. Your parents, how would you describe your dad?
He was shorter than I was. He was smaller build than I was. Very nice, very hardworking. You probably don't know this, but as far as thrashing wheat, you know, we had thrashing machines. Well, we had the machine and the tractor, and we done about 10 to 12 farmers every year. So we had the thrashing machine. So I got to sit in the grain boxes and scratch that around. So
Were you close to your father? Were you close to your
very
father?
close. Yeah, when he did die, we were that day out plowing, and came home, and we had a bunch of sheep, and some of the sheep didn't want the lambs, so Dad just bent down and helped them, and that's how he went. Anyways, yeah.
And you were pretty young when that happened.
Yep.
14.
I was, I was graduating from 8th grade.
Okay. What was your mother like?
She was a little bigger and heavier, and just a wonderful cook. When we went trashing and stuff like that, they'd done all the milking. I had a sister Elsie, and they'd done the home chores. Worked very hard.
What was your mother and father's relationship like?
Very good. I hardly ever heard them argue. In fact, I did. But, so I guess they must have got along well. I mean, they were close. So.
Before your father passed away, who did the disciplining, your mother or your father?
I suppose mother, yeah. Well, but I was a good boy. They didn't need to.
They didn't need to. How did they show affection in your house?
Much affection, yeah.
Much of it?
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your brother and sister?
That was very good, but they were all older than I was, and they played a lot of tricks on me. Otherwise, they were really, really nice.
What types of tricks did they play on you?
Do you really want to hear them all?
Yeah.
Well, the biggest trick was always when the folks went away, we made candy. They had to make candy, fudge bars and stuff.
Sounds good.
And then, of course, they would always blame me for doing it, and they'd actually put some candy on the doorknob so they'd know, all that stuff. But anyway, the worst thing they ever did was I always got the mail, and that was only a quarter mile, I guess. And I was very short, so what they did one time is put some cow poop in the mailbox, and so when I get the mail, I just reach in and get it now. Yeah, things like that.
So brotherly and sisterly love.
I guess another thing with my sister, she thought we should go smoke. So what we did, we used toilet paper and it must have been coffee or something. And we went into the outside bathroom, and of course it had cracks out. They had cracks. There were cracks in the house behind the house. And so the smoke came out all over. Mother was standing outside, and that was the end of my day. And Elsie's.
Yeah, that's a good start. Were there a lot of competition between you and your brother and sister? Did you compete for things? Or?
No, and then my brother Art, who's my brother, and then my adopted. They never adopted him really, but they took him in. They were very, very good to each other, and one was 2 years and one was 2.5. I mean, only half a year different, and they worked well together, and there was no competition. I was the youngest anyway, so.
Baby of the family.
Yeah, my sister was, I think, 6 years younger than I, and my brother's 10. He was born on leap year, so.
Ooh. Your family home. Can you describe that? How was that set up?
Just a regular house. To begin with, we didn't have 2 stories on that house. And as far as I know, we only had really 2 bedrooms. I know Elsie slept in one part of the folks' bedroom, but it was made off. Mm-hmm. And then the other was my 2 brothers and me. I guess there's another story to that. We had 1/4 land that was about 5 miles away, and that had a bunch of rocks. So what we do every fall, we pick rocks. Well, I seem to do at nighttime what I did during the daytime in my sleep all the time. So they went away one night, and I was in the same bedroom. You know, they had 3 beds, but 1 big room. Okay. And what I did, I started hauling all the bedding and everything, hauled it right in the middle of the whatchamacallit and laid it on the floor. So I was hauling rocks.
Still in your work mode. How old were you when your family adopted your brother?
I wasn't, was I? No, it couldn't have been. Not if.
So he was
no.
Older, he was older than you.
Oh yeah, he was a half a year older than my other brother, and he's
so
10 years older than I am.
And then you said he was about 2 when.
So.
So you weren't around yet.
No, I wasn't, was I? No.
Okay. Okay, you said that all the boys shared one room, and then
And me.
And you. And then what was did you have a kitchen and then a
kitchen, a little kitchen, mm-hmm. and a pot-belly stove or whatever you call them, and that was it. Oh well, we had a living room. We had a little living room, because I know the organ was sitting in there. Yeah.
Did you have a cellar or a basement?
Oh, we had a basement. A cellar. In the earlier days. Mm-hmm. But after that, we put a basement underneath and put the furnace and stuff down there. Because I know we hauled in our own coal from the coal mine, mm-hmm. and they brought it big chunks, and I had to help them hammer it so it'd go down the window.
What was the furniture like in your house? You said you had an organ in the family room.
Yeah, we had a Davenport and chairs, I suppose. Yeah, and a big table because in fashion time we had like 12 to 14 to 16 people at one time.
That's a lot of mouths. Did your family use any nicknames when you were growing up? Your brothers and sisters? No? You told us about your nickname.
I was Mr. Ed, but that was Mr. Ed then. That's just come about lately. I called my music Mr. Ed, my accordion. So, but, no, I was Emil. And Artie was Artie, I guess, and Elda was Elda, and Elsie was Elsie. I guess we didn't have any nicknames, no?
In your home, what language did you speak?
Well, German. I really actually had to learn how to speak English when I went to school. So it was German kind of all the way until went to school, I guess, and you had to learn English. But when we're home, like around the table, something like that was German.
Did your parents learn how to speak English, or did they?
My dad went to 6th grade school, and he was pretty good because he knew how to do the figuring and all that stuff, and the cash machine stuff. My mother's learned more English after she moved to town, and she kept some kids from high school stayed there, and she learned, but never could write that well. My dad could, but she knew how to speak English. I understand it, about as good as I speak German now. And our German was not high German.
Yes, it was
Mixed up. No.
different dialects and.
Because when I went to Austria and Germany and military, I finally found out what German really is. And well, the ministers always are high German, that was real German.
Who did what around the house, such as cooking, cleaning, washing?
My sister and mother done the washing, I know that much. And yeah, they done it all because we were always busy.
Yeah.
Or my brothers, we were always out either making hay or plowing or drilling. And plowing then was with a 4-bottom plow, which was about so light, back and forth 100 times. Where now they got like 24 feet. Yeah,
definitely a different time.
definitely.
Did you have a garden?
Yes, oh yes, big garden behind the house.
Who took care of that?
Mom
What
and Elsie.
What primarily did you grow?
Just about everything. Cucumbers, radishes, lettuce. We even had trees that had grapes, and just about everything that you ate.
Did your mom can a lot of those foods?
She canned a lot of it. That was at least pickles, cucumbers, the pickles, yeah.
Did your father help with any household tasks?
Very little. Not that he wouldn't have probably, but number one, he had his own work outside, and he never. I don't think he ever had a cook neither. So.
Did your mother or your sister help out with the outside chores?
Yep,
farming?
milking cows
Milking cows?
and hauling hay sometimes. When my dad died, Elsie and I actually took one crop down, and I was young, and so was my sister. But I guess that's it.
What animals? You said cows. Did you have any other animals on the farm?
Cows, horses, sheep, hogs, chicken, ducks, geese, anything that was good to eat.
What did you primarily enjoy to eat? What was your favorite?
I guess pork still is. Pork chops.
Good old pork chop, huh? What chores did you dislike when you were a kid? That you just dreaded doing?
We're getting back to milking cows, I guess.
Thing that you had
We
to
done
do.
that all by hand, There's no, and we had like 26 to 28 cows, and that had to be milked morning and the afternoon.
Oh.
I like the farming part of it as far as plowing, drilling, and that was kind of fun on the tractor.
The cows.
Yeah.
What were the differences between your summer and winter work?
Summer was putting in the crop, and where in the wintertime, all you could do there was haul the hay, and you had to shovel the snow before you get to the hay. So I guess that was the big difference, that it was inconvenient in the wintertime, where in the summertime you'd get around.
Did your parents ever hire you out to neighbors to help them with their fields and their chores?
Well, I know we helped other people out, but we had enough work to do ourselves. But I know we helped our Uncle Adolf, when he needed help, or anybody else, because we had probably the bigger tractor of all.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked. We finally got lights on the tractor. You know, we worked day and night.
Did your family ever go on family outings?
Very little. I think the outings was when they went to Jamestown and ate at a Chinese restaurant or something. That was really something. But when we talk about outings like we do now, they never went any place, but they visited a lot of uncles and aunts and friends and farmers around there. And I guess that was the whole joy of it. But they never went to Hawaii, or they never, well, just never anywhere.
Yeah. What was it like going to Jamestown, to the Chinese restaurant?
That was our deal, because when I went to school, that's when we bought our clothes, and we got to go in there, and I milkshake was my favorite, which still is.
Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry?
Strawberry. And so we really enjoyed that, yeah. And I guess another thing for us to even go to a July celebration, something like that, we had to do certain chores that had to be done before we go.
Switching to a related topic, we're going to talk about play for a while. Did your mother or father ever play with you? Like play different games with you or anything?
Well, I think we played board games, yeah, together, yeah. Oh, yeah. Played cards too, except we had some neighbors that were different religions. They didn't believe in playing cards, so sometimes they had to put them on the table.
What type of card games did you play?
Whist, hearts. That was the big thing. 500 rummy, is that what it was called? I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. As far as children your own age, who did you play with? Did you have neighbor kids, or was it primarily your brothers and sisters?
Well, our neighbors all were probably a mile and a half, 2 miles, 3 miles away, you know. I really didn't. Elsie and I think we did, but the brothers were so much older, you know, and they played with different things than I would have played with, I guess. So.
Besides card games and Monopoly, is there any other types of indoor activities you would play?
Outside we played ball, and I guess baseball would have been, not basketball. Yeah. I first started playing basketball when I went to high school, because grade school they didn't have one, really. We played ball. It's called anti-over. You throw the ball over the roof of a building. That was a big thing in the school. That most of what we played there, or a hide and seek, you know, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The old games.
I played that one as well. Where was your favorite place to play?
We were always home, so I guess home. Home, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any pets besides your farm animals, like a dog or?
No, we had dogs. Oh, we had dogs, yeah. But those dogs were also good to gather cattle and stuff like that, you know. Mm-hmm. And we had cats. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a favorite dog or?
Well, we had several dogs that some were favorite, yeah.
Some were favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Did you join any clubs when you were a kid?
Clubs?
Clubs.
When I was a real kid, I mean a small kid?
Yeah, like 4-H or anything like that.
Not then,
okay.
But in high school I joined Boy Scouts and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. How about a favorite song?
Well, I had a lot of them. I guess there were a lot of church songs, that when we went to church all the time. That was a country church also. And I guess My Only Sunshine was my favorite song because that's the first one I ever played. And I still play it, and I make them sing it in the nursing homes. And Beautiful, Beautiful Brown Eyes, which you got.
Yes.
And thought I'd mention that. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain.
Were you encouraged to play instruments as a child? Is that how it started, or you just picked it up one day and?
I guess I just picked it up. I don't think anybody ever start playing. I guess as soon as you hear a tune, you know how to play it.
Or you do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could hear a tune and play it. That'd be
I could listen to the radio and then go home and play it.
really. Wow. That's impressive. Did you go to church as a child?
Pardon?
How often did you go to church as a child?
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. I saw that
With the horses, no matter how cold it was. And we had about at least 7 to 8 miles. And I know my folks heated some rocks, and put them in the sleigh and stuff,
keep it warm.
just to keep our feet warm. That I remember.
What was the name of the church that you went to?
Well, it's Lutheran,
Mm-hmm.
but what was that called out there? Can't remember.
It's the one out in.
But I didn't write it down.
Oh, we can.
It's got a name to it.
Oh, we can find that out. So, how important was religion to you when you were a child?
How important was what?
Was religion to you?
Very much so. I mean, we just grew up with it. We didn't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Sundays, it was just we went to church. And I guess that's all I remember. I remember also where the men sat on one side and women the other side, And so and then after I grew up, well, I joined the Luther League, and stuff like that in Streeter. But that's when I went to high school.
What were some religious activities that you participated in?
You mean even after I moved into?
As a child, during your early years.
Well, I guess it's just Sunday school. Yeah, I think that's all there was out there. The Sunday school.
Were you baptized?
Yes.
Do you remember that, or?
I was small when I got baptized. But yeah, I know who did, and but that's about all.
What was
Reverend Nickel.
What was confirmation like?
That was fun because I got to go to town, and that was fun.
How long were the confirmation classes?
I guess it must have been 2 to 3 weeks, and maybe I did stay with my grandma and grandpa when I went to confirmation. Can't remember now.
Did you have a big celebration after your confirmation?
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
Just everybody got together. That was a celebration.
Did you have special foods that they served?
Food?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so. Nifla, dumplings, strudel,
The famous food.
coffee cake.
Okay. Did confirmation have a special meaning for you?
I guess it did. Yeah, confirmation then was different than now also. We had to learn a lot more, and when confirmation was held, they asked you questions. and you had to answer them. They don't do that now anymore.
Was that kind of
Not
scary
really.
for you to answer the
It
question?
never really bothered me because I got my memory. I could memorize things very easily, so I knew the answers.
Was Sunday dinner or supper different from your average dinner?
Yeah,
How so?
usually was. Sunday was a soup day and chicken and dumplings again in the soup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was. It was always a little different than, yeah. Of course, homemade bread was one of the specialties.
Making me hungry. How far was your church from your house?
You mean on the farm?
Yeah, from the farm.
I think it was 7 miles.
7 miles.
Yeah.
That's a decent.
Or more, but it was close to 7.
You said earlier that your confirmation was in German. Was the church services also in German at that time?
They had German services, yeah.
Did you attend the German services or English services?
No, I think out in the country was nothing but German.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got to town, I think we had 2 services. One was German and one was English. But I believe that I did attend the English, except when Grandma and Grandpa went. Then, of course, I had to go in when it's German. They were strict with that.
Really wanted to maintain the German language.
And they didn't know much English at all. Hardly any.
What was the first funeral you had to attend?
I can't tell you that, but it could have been my dad.
What was a typical funeral like for back then?
I was awful young, so I don't really recall how I took it or whatever. Of course, when Dad died, I took it hard because I was close to him, and I was there when he did die. So.
How was that for your brothers and sisters? Was it pretty hard for them as well?
They were all gone. In fact, they had their own farms.
Okay.
But I guess I do have a story about that. When my dad died, I already drove pickup and truck. I don't think I had license. But I drove over on a road to my brother that was halfway underwater, and everybody got stuck, but I got all the way over and back without getting stuck. But that was a pretty good, and everybody else did get stuck. Because I wanted to get to my brothers and tell them about it. Because there were no telephone, come to think of it.
Moving to a more pleasant topic, what was your favorite holiday growing up?
I guess Christmas, we got a gift.
What was, did you have a Christmas tree?
Oh yeah, we always had Christmas trees and real Christmas trees. And we celebrated it. And Easter was fun too because we always got to roll up our clothes for the nest and we get a few candy.
Did you celebrate, did your family have any type of celebration on Christmas Eve?
I think so. Yeah, I'm sure we did have on Christmas Eve. Yeah.
What were the typical foods that were served for the holidays?
Well, I guess the same thing, except for more candy and nuts and peanuts, and that's the only time we had nuts and peanuts, and specialty candy,
Did you have your extended family over to your place for like your aunts and uncles?
Always.
You had pretty large family gatherings.
Yep. Brothers and sisters, we were always together on holidays. And a lot of times, I had a uncle that had no children. We usually invited him over. I mean, them, my aunt and uncle. In fact, we had two uncles and aunts that had no children, and we invited them usually to our, because they loved children, and they brought gifts.
What was 4th of July like?
Like I said, we couldn't go to 4th of July until we had our chores done. By the time we had them done, we were too tired to go anywhere, but we went to Jamestown. Was about the only time. The only thing I remember of 4th of July was they always had they were called the Dead Dodgers, I believe. They had the Dodge vehicles and they drove, on two wheels. And that was really exciting for us.
You have a lot of, was there a lot of fireworks or?
I think in Jamestown they always had fireworks, yeah.
Did you have any?
But see, they had it 2 or 3 days. We only could go one day.
Were there any games or activities for the kids to participate
Yeah, I
in?
remember one thing too. My brother and I, we went to one of the places where you put money down and then you spin a wheel or something like that, and you get something, and I mean you always get something, but you never get to the end of where you really got what you wanted. I mean it just kept
Going.
Yeah. I remember that part. My brother knew all about that, but he just let me go. That's another trick.
Let's see. Oh, how were the children's birthdays celebrated in your family?
They were all celebrated, but they're no different, I don't think. It's just cake, I guess. Ice cream. We made our own ice cream, so we had a lot of ice cream.
What was your favorite cake for your birthday?
It was usually chocolate. I remember that part. Yeah.
Did you get gifts on your birthdays, or?
Oh yeah, we always got a gift. Yeah.
Okay. Was this also a time when your extended family, your aunts and grandparents would come over, or was it more just your immediate family?
I think the aunts and uncles did come over, and but Grandpa and Grandma, they were older, so they hardly ever came to our place. I know Grandma Dewald, never did, except we did take her in. My mother took her in for maybe 6, 8 months before she died. So that's the only time really that grandparents. We usually went to the grandparent rows when they were on the farm or in town.
Did your family participate in any sausage parties or communal butchering? What was that like?
A lot of them. Every I suppose fall, yeah, that's right, when we butchered, and they had parties. We made our own beer too.
Sounds tasty. Did your mom go to any, your older sister go to cooking parties?
No, I don't think anybody could cook any better anyway, so no. Not that I know of, they didn't, because there weren't any around.
Okay. Turning the subject to healthcare, you'd mentioned that a couple illnesses, you had the ear and then your appendix. Were there any other serious illnesses within your family during your childhood?
No. No brothers, no sisters, no. Not mom.
Do you recall any special home remedies that your mom had when you get an upset stomach or a headache, or what were some of those?
One of them was hot schnapps. But there's what kind of soup is there? Was it rice soup or that cured everything? It wasn't rice soup. There's some kind of soup that we always got, hot soup.
Where was the closest doctor to this sponsor?
11 miles. And Dr. Stokes.
Okay. We just talked about home remedies and cures, so let's, do you remember, well, you said you were born at home. Do you remember hearing about midwives?
Oh, yeah, my mother was one.
Your mother was?
Yeah, when neighbors had, she helped out. Yeah. That's the one thing she did too.
Did you or your sister ever go with her?
Not me.
Not you?
No. My sister probably did.
Okay. Besides your dad, did anybody else in your family pass away during your childhood?
Yeah, in the Dewald family, a lot of the uncles died young.
What were some of the causes of death?
Well, it was Adam Wins, I know, and Adam Dewald, and Fred Dewald, and Chris Dewald. But I was older then already. As far as young, when I was really young, I don't recall except a few Dewalds, uncle.
Okay, we'll switch on to a different topic. We're going to talk about funerals. So, politics. When you were a child, was there any talk of politics in your family?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they talked about. I know Dad listened to Roosevelt, or whatever. Yeah, I think those days. But there really wasn't much talk about Republican or Democrat.
Were any of the members in your family involved in politics? Did they participate in a?
No.
The next subject we have is community life. Would you consider yourself a rural or urban person?
Rural is country, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what I am.
Country folk?
Yeah.
What did you especially like about living in the country?
The openness, I guess, and you can just by doing anything you want out there too. You can do hunting all over the place. That one thing, our hunting was very easy. It was right in the. We had a big hay field in the back of the farm, and there were many deer. So we had no problem.
Did you ever experience a feeling of isolation living out in such an open and wide?
Never. No. It's wide open country, and you can go when you want. You could either walk or you could have bicycle, or I had an experience when I first drove my first pickup out of the field with grain. I was very small. I couldn't, you had a clutch and a brake at that time. And I was so short that when I pushed the brake and the clutch, I couldn't see. So before I knew it, I was in the granary.
Oh no! What did your parents think?
Not much. Didn't think that was too clever.
Who were your neighbors when you were growing up? What was the closest farmstead you were there?
Well, the closest neighbor would have been about 1.5 miles
Okay.
to the west, and then to the south about 2.5 miles, to the north about 3 miles, and then to the east, I suppose that would have been another 3 miles or so.
Did your family ever socialize with any of your neighbors?
Probably the biggest socialization was when we were trashing. Everybody was together. Otherwise, I guess we were friends with everybody, so.
Would your neighbors look after you as a child for your parents if they had to go to town sometimes, or would that mostly be your older brothers?
Older brother or sister, and they loved that because they could make candy and stuff like that.
Did your older brother or sister ever discipline you?
Disappoint me?
Discipline.
Discipline?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I needed it.
They just played tricks on you.
Yeah.
Did your family ever entertain friends at their house, at your house? You have people over to.
It seems like not much. I'm not going to say that they didn't, but I don't think they did much of entertaining at all, except my brothers did get out, maybe once a week, and I don't think they wanted to entertain at home because they're home all week working their buns off.
Want to go someplace else?
Yeah, they used to go to Street or Napoleon. There were a lot of dances around in that area. I guess we were in that subject already. That's one thing that we enjoyed very much.
What was that like?
That's very good. The Streeter had dances, Napoleon had 3 dance halls, and that was fun.
Is that something you would do on a Saturday night, or?
Usually. I learned how to dance. I got to tell you about that. I learned how to dance by cleaning wheat. My sister knew how to dance. So when we were cleaning wheat, she put a radio in there, and then she taught me how to dance while we were working.
Good.
That's how I learned how to dance.
What social classes existed when you were growing up? Were there, as far as middle class, really rich people, poor people, were there a lot of social classes that you saw, or was it just everybody?
Everybody's same.
Everybody's same?
Yeah.
Do you remember other ethnic groups? Were there some Norwegians close by, or was it mostly German?
Oh, yeah, no, right around there is all Germans. Streeter, Gackle, and Wishick, all of them, There really weren't any other ethnic groups at all.
What was your family's attitude or feelings towards townspeople? Did they think differently of them than farm people?
No. No, because all my uncles were also in the grocery business. They had a grocery store, and my other uncle had a creamery. So there is no feeling. Not my parents.
Were there places that your parents wouldn't let you go, or children that they wouldn't let you socialize with during your childhood?
No. I got to town once in a week or two. So my dad was usually along with it when he paid the 5 cents for the milkshake.
We'll move on to more about your farmstead. How did your family gain possession of the land? Did they inherit it, or purchase it, or were they renting it?
That's a good question. I believe that at that time some land was given to some people that came across. I think, I'm not sure, but I know most of our farming, at least when we bought it. My dad did. But I'm not exactly sure how they started out. They started out probably with a quarter or something, and kept on going. Because with horses you couldn't do a lot of, plowing and stuff.
Was your family grain farmers, ranchers, dairy farmers, or a
Grain.
little bit of all?
Grain.
Grain?
Mostly grain. I mean, the biggest income would have been grain, but to keep you going, cattle was the next best thing. Because milk, we sold a lot of milk, and that bought the groceries if you had to buy any.
What buildings were on your parents' farm? You have the house.
We had a house. We had a little white house behind the house. That's
What was that
that's
for?
the bathroom.
Okay. The bathroom.
And we had at least 3 granaries and a big barn. 1 garage maybe. Yeah, I think we had a garage. Chicken coop, a hog shed, windmill.
Let's see.
That's one thing I hated to do when every time we went away, I was the guy that had to stop the windmill. And I had a problem those days. I'd bleed. My nose always started bleeding because I ran over there and just to get back to the car so we can go someplace, And but I had to always do that, of course, because we had to stop the windmill. Otherwise, the water would have ran over.
Oh, yes. Did your family butcher and the cows and the animals?
Yes, that's what we did in fall. I think is when we would have done that. Hogs, cow, sheep.
Did you help with that?
I did in when I got a little older, yeah. Not in butchering or stuff like that, but I helped make the sausage for one thing.
Crank the. What were the roads like to your farm?
Dirt.
Dirt.
Dirt. They became gravel later on, but boy, they were dirt.
Did your community have fall harvest celebrations when it was harvest time?
Well, yeah, they call it the corn show, I think is what they call it. But in my days when we were still farming, there was not much celebration as far as the end of the harvest. Where now they do more so. They got the corn show, they call them, or something like that. Really wasn't much time to celebrate.
Yeah, keep going with the work.
That's right.
Where did your parents learn farming practices? How did they learn how to farm?
Don't know that. I would gather from other people, or from adults. Mm-hmm. My dad came over when he was 6 years old. And I wish I'd know more about how they got out to the country, but I don't. My my grandpa Rao or my mother's folks lived close by on the first farm they had. Well, I get it, that's how they learned from their fathers and mothers.
What type of farming equipment did you have on your farm? You talked about the tractor and the thresher.
From the beginning to the end?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first we had 2 bottom plows that you had to plow with horses. And then you had a drill. And you had call them rake, I think you call them, yeah. And as it got later and later, we had a big old rumbly tractor, which is a monster. You needed 2 people to turn the thing. And a little bit of bigger plow, but then in the later years, we got the big tractors like the Oliver 99s, and those were the biggest. And we had headers first, and what we did with header, instead of header box, we had what you call a barge, which made a stack in while we were headering. And then we pulled it out and kept on going. Now that was an invention out there, and we were the first, and then other people started that. So, and binders. And that's when I said I'd never get to heaven if I'd keep on the binders, because the binders that tied up the bundles never worked. But anyway, in fact, I never did combine. I mean, I did afterwards. After high school, I went out, but we never had a combine. We just had the traction machines and the headers, which had stacks, and then binders, which had one. And I'd done a lot of shocking. Shocking is when you stack in a shock, for binding.
Familiar with that.
You are?
Yeah, a little bit.
Were you on a farm?
I grew up on a farm.
Oh, then you know a little bit about it.
Yep.
But you're too young.
Yes. Yes, there's a different type of farming. Let's see here. Can you describe your fields? What do they look like when you think back to the fields?
The field?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. They're all nice and green and nice and even and number one, I guess in those days there was a lot of straw to everything. And so they were tall, very tall. At least when you had to shock them, I mean, they were hard to handle, but we handled them. So it was just beautiful. Fields are beautiful. And I think most people that come to North Dakota in the summertime, that's what they really enjoy. Because we got a lot of fields where other countries don't, or states.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. What were farm kids' feelings towards town kids? Was there any animosity?
I don't think there was any animosity at those days. I don't think so. Because the town kids, they also did something with their fathers and mothers that either owned grocery stores or hardware stores or whatever. So they had to work together.
School. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a child? What did you imagine yourself being?
I was told I was going to be a minister. A long time. Then when I started playing accordion, they said, now you better become a minister. You could go up there and play and you'd have big crowds. I guess I didn't know at the time any better than that, and I was the only one that went to college in our family, and I went to Dakota Business College, or Business College, and so I went into business, but I've been in the insurance business for about 43 years now.
When did you start going to school? How old were you when you started?
I think I was 7 because of my operations and stuff. I was a little bit behind.
Did you go to like a one-room schoolhouse, or was it a like
one-room schoolhouse?
Schoolhouse. How many students were at the school?
I suppose the maximum probably were about 18 to 20, I think.
Did you go to school for the full year, or was it just during like the winter months, or?
No, like they do now.
Like you do?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to school?
And sometimes we walked or bicycle, but the shortest was not going over fences and stuff, so we walked more or less. But in the wintertime, we had one horse and a sled, and that's how we got there.
About how long did it take you to get to school?
No. How long would it take to walk a mile?
Oh, I would like to think a long time.
Probably half an hour, I think that was quite a lot. But if you went around the outside, then it took probably an hour.
Was there pretty good attendance in your school, or were students?
Very good attendance.
Very good attendance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess when we had, I don't know if we ever had a school day off as far as snow or anything. I don't recall that, but I'm sure we did. But we had to make them up, of course.
Did you ever have to stay home to help your dad and your mom on the farm and the school? Or?
Yeah, if the harvest got into the fall too deep, a lot of times there was snow. I remember one year we were pushing snow with the tractor and the threshing machine before we were done.
This one school has to go grades 1 through 8, and then you went
1 through 8.
Then you went to the town to go to high school.
Right, town high school. Yeah.
How was that for you?
Very good.
How far?
I went to high school. That's 11 miles.
11 miles.
Did
you stay in town, or did you commute every day?
Except in the summertime, I went out and helped brothers. Made a little money.
Did your brothers go to the high school as well, or did they just
No.
go 1 through 8 and then work the farm?
1 through 8.
What's your favorite memory about going to school?
The grade school or?
Grade school.
I don't know. Probably. We always had recess, called recess or whatever you call it. Yeah. And we got to play 15 minutes every day. In the morning and then 15 in the afternoon. And I like to learn, I guess.
What type of activities would you do during your recess?
Like this anti-over, throw the ball. We'd done a lot of running games and stuff like that to get exercise too, I guess.
What subjects were you taught in grade school?
Well, one place we were lacking were vowels, I know that much. Our teachers were never more educated than probably high school. And my favorite subject was math. Well, then it was arithmetic. Then not algebra until I got to high school. But I guess that was my favorite. History was not my favorite. But the other subjects, I guess were fine.
Were you allowed to speak German in school, or did you have to solely speak English?
I think we had to speak English.
Did you
but I don't think we would have got thrown in jail if we would have.
Did you speak German out on the playground?
I'm sure we did. Yeah.
How well did you do in school? Did you do pretty well?
I average. Yeah, I wasn't the smartest person in the world, but not the dumbest neither.
Was it hard for you in school to switch from speaking German to English? Was it difficult to learn that second language?
That's one part I don't recall. I evidently must have learned a little bit of English before from my brothers, I would think, when they went to school, grade school. But I don't recall that it was a big problem.
What type of school supplies did you need when you were in the London schoolhouse?
Colors, for one thing.
Okay.
Other than that, we didn't have anything fancy at all. We had paper and we had ink bottle and a pin, I think, that you stuck into the ink bottle, That's all I recall. And the books that we got,
In your school, were there more females or more males, or pretty even?
Seemed like there were more males those days, yeah.
How about other ethnic groups? Was it primarily German Russian, or was the school, did it have a mixed population?
They were about all the same type of people, ethnic groups.
What did you usually take for lunch when you went to school?
Sandwiches, and then more sandwiches.
Not a fan of sandwiches?
and kuka usually for the dessert. But we always had a fruit. Somehow or other, we had oranges.
Did you have a lunch pail that you would take?
Oh yeah, lunch pail.
When you think back, you grew up in the one-room schoolhouse, and then you went to high school in a town. How was that for you, going from a country school to the town school? Was it a big transition, or did it just go natural?
Yeah, it was a transition, and I guess why it wasn't so bad was because most of the kids that went to high school were always on the farm before, and there were enough kids that I knew from the farm in high school that it didn't really bother them much. And I never was really a shy person when it came to meeting people, so that helped.
Do you remember your teachers when you were a child?
I remember most of the teachers. They were all pretty nice.
Do you have a favorite?
Not really. I couldn't tell you their names. Except one, I guess, Lorraine, because she stayed at our place for a while.
Okay.
But they were all pretty good.
Were they strict or,
Yeah, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, they were, yeah.
How would they discipline children that were misbehaving?
Really, there were no misbehaving as far as that they had to use a ruler and hit your hand or anything like that. But some of them, I guess, didn't learn their lessons the way they were supposed to. Let's make them do it, I guess.
Did you ever get into any trouble while you were in school?
Only for talking and using spitball.
What was the consequence of those actions?
Quit.
Short but simple scolding.
Or play with the hair and the girl in front of you or whatever, Depends if she was willing or not.
Let's see. Did you have homework?
Always.
How was that for you with doing your farm chores and at home?
That was tough. And then, first, of course, to begin with, we had no lights. We had the mantle light. And then my brothers got kind of smart and figured out where we could have a 6-volt light. And that was really something. I mean, that was bright, according to Mendel. And then we finally got I think it was called a 32 volt or 48 or 32. That's how many batteries we had in the basement then, and had a motor that charged it up. But as far as schoolwork, I guess I always got it done.
Did your parents or your older brother and sister help you with your homework at all? Or?
I think my sister did, but I don't think my brothers did. I don't think they knew any better. No.
What books, if you remember any, what books did you read while you were in school? Remember any of the books, please?
Not very many. As far as other than what you had in class, like called it geography, I guess, history.
The textbooks.
Hey, that brings things back.
Such as?
Well, I didn't remember about geography,
Oh.
That's not called that anymore, is it?
No, what they have now, I think, is social studies.
Yeah.
They combine them all together. In your school, did you ever celebrate like Halloween or Christmas? They had like big celebrations for them?
Well, yeah, I think we always did. We always had like I have a day off or something like that, I'm sure, before. Because we still had Christmas off and Easter and stuff like that.
Did you have like any Christmas concerts or things that the children would put on like we do today? Or?
Not that I know of, but we sang for our own, you know. I remember that part, but we never put on any not in grade school.
What about Valentine's Day? Did you ever, as children, did you exchange Valentine's cards?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we had some favorite people we want to give Valentine's to.
How important was getting an education in your family?
Well, by looking at the education the other family had, it didn't look like there was much, but it was very important. They told me that I had to go to high school and college because they were doing the farming, and there wasn't another farm. We had 3 farms out there, so that took care of that. So I went to high school and college.
What type of subjects did they teach you in high school?
I guess about the same thing. I remember one thing, law, and I really liked that. Called law. And you still had your spelling, and you had your geography, as I remember it, and science. Yeah, arithmetic, whatever.
Was it set up kind of like it is today, as far as you go to a science class and you go to a history class and you go to, or did one teacher teach all the subjects, or?
Well, in grade school it was one teacher, but in high school, no, we had different teachers. Like for law, I remember. Now there's a teacher I really liked. He really knew his stuff. But no, we had different teachers in high school for different subjects.
About how many students attended that school in high school?
Well, the whole town was only about 800 or 900 or something like that. So, well, we had at least 30, well, we might have more than that, 50, 60 at least.
Was there more males also in high school than females, or was it pretty even, or?
I think it's pretty even in high school, yeah. There were enough girls to go around, so.
Well, what about the teenage years, since we're in high school? How old were you when you started dating?
7? No.
I think that's a true answer of young men.
Real dating, I don't know. I suppose, yeah, for freshman high school, which would have been what? How old? 17, 18? Yeah.
So, what were customs of courtship? What were the traditional customs? How would you start a
What
relationship?
do you mean?
Well, what type of activities did you do on a date?
You want to know that?
Did you go to the movies? Did you go to dances?
Dances probably mostly, and did go to movies, but there was none in Streeter.
Okay.
So we had to go to Medina or Gackle. That's about it, I guess.
Okay.
There wasn't a heck of a lot to do, unless you went out of town. And the way I got out of town was I went to Luther League, and then after Luther League, we'd take off and go to Lair or someplace to a dance. That's how I got out.
Who attended these dances? Was it mostly the younger people, or couples, or were there older people, mix of people?
Well, most of them were like my age, I guess, but then the older people too. Everybody danced in those days. But some dances, well, most dances were the old time dance, you know, the dance, waltz, polkas, and 2-steps.
How did you meet your wife?
Dakota Business College. We had offices, you might not know the setup. Dakota Business College had offices for different businesses. That's how you learn, the businesses. And we got paired up one time with the same office. And I guess that's how we met, and that's how we met. Yeah.
Well, we'll turn to a couple concluding questions. During your childhood, go back to your childhood, what was the most stressful childhood experience that you had to live through?
I guess it would have been when my dad died. I suppose I was very young, and a lot to learn, and that hurts. That hurts very much.
What helped you to get through that?
I guess my mother, and she never did get married again or anything, So after that, when we went to town, when the house was finished, me and my mother were always alone. My sister was a nurse in Jamestown, so we kind of took care of things.
What was the most scariest thing that you ever experienced?
Probably riding a horse. Horses, those days, and I'm sure even today, when you ride a horse and a rabbit or something jumps out, they don't go straight ahead anymore. They go sideways, and I fell off. I guess that was probably the most scariest. No, maybe not. One thing that I guess was really when we had this barge for the heathering, we had a big arm that if it wasn't hooked up to the heather with big steel arm, and that somehow came off and hit me on the head, and that was a little scary because I was bleeding all over the place, and but it seems like I came out of it. It's still there, but.
What was the happiest time in your childhood? Happiest experience?
That would have been out on the country. I guess I was always really happy when we went someplace. Visit my uncles and aunts. Again, because they all had all girls, see. So, yeah. But I don't know. I was happy all the time as far as putting up the crops and stuff. That was fun then, really. Even though you had to work your buns off. But,
what was the most adventurous thing that you did as a child?
Go to Jamestown. I guess that was about it. And then the 4th of July, we got to go, but and that was getting out, And I guess the other adventurous thing, my dad and I, we always loaded up the pickup and with grain or something and went to town, and he always did buy me a milkshake. And I guess that's the excitement, really.
Where did you get the milkshakes at? Was there a local?
A really nice drugstore called the Hampson's Drugstore, and that's still there, except no more the fountains and stuff.
Why do you think it's important to tell your life story?
I guess, well, number one, I guess, is that it makes you think back and what you did, where otherwise I don't think you would. Because right now I know I haven't told you everything that I really know, about. And the more you talk about it, I think the more you remember, for one thing. And if it's entertaining to somebody else, fine. And I guess my grown-up life has been, and you're not getting into that though,
Not
has
in
been
this
more
interview,
exciting
yeah.
than, huh?
Not in this interview. That's another chapter, another interview.
Because that has been very exciting as far as my music and so on and so forth. In the military too.
Well, we do have other questions regarding that. So if you're interested in doing a follow-up interview in the future, we could definitely.
If you get into the military,
yeah,
and
we have military questions.
because that's
Okay.
I had quite a
Well, keep that
Okay.
in. Set up a follow-up interview with you on the
And-
military aspect.
and if you all vote on something, make sure that you vote for the Happy Hooligans stay here because I was there 22 years. So
How do you think your life experiences have shaped your memories?
explain a little bit.
What in your life has created, the foundation of memories in your life? What has shaped you? Primarily.
Well, I guess my family would have. That would have been number one. And I get back to this thing all the time. My music has really shaped my life as far as now. Supposedly, I'm the minister. My minister said the other day that you're doing a lot of good ministry because I do, and they do enjoy the old music. And I guess that would be it.
Are there any other thoughts or observations you would like to share about your childhood?
Not at this time. I can't remember anything more. I told you more now than I knew
And
until it got going.
you ask the questions and it does little triggers.
Oh yeah.
Is there anyone else that you would like to suggest for us to interview?
I don't know because I don't know if they'd want to. My wife don't want to for now. She's a little more quiet than some people are,
yes,
and
the camera
she
can
don't
be-
want to dig into. I guess.
Okay. Well, we thank you. And
Thank you.